Have you noticed that social media can grab your attention and it can be really, really hard to let it go or stop interacting with it sometimes? Most of us depend on social media in some way. So maybe you use LinkedIn to connect with business associates. Maybe you use Facebook to keep in touch with family members so you don't have to make a phone call every day. Maybe you're an entrepreneur and you use Instagram to post stories and reels, and this helps you create social engagement and sell your products. There are literally hundreds of ways to use social media. How are you using it? How we interact with social media can take on a life of its own. Wouldn't you agree? Each platform has its own personality and attraction and serves a slightly different purpose. But the one thing that I've noticed they all have in common is that they all desire to keep and capture your attention and definitely keep it long term. So they're throwing things in front of you. This isn't all bad, but it certainly isn't all good either. Today, I want to chat a little bit about the pros and cons of using social media and how it can influence your confidence. Welcome to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. I'm on a quest to help you find the most confident version of you. I help women become the most authentic version of themselves by helping them find clarity around who they are and who they want to be. My goal is to help women sift through all that noise that they have in their head about who they should be or who they shouldn't be and create a plan to be exactly who they want to be. You don't have to continue to live with anxiety, high stress, and overwhelm. You can, little by little, get back to a place of peace and live with more contentment than you ever thought possible. You don't have to merely survive day to day. There is a life waiting for you, thriving. Grab your coffee, your favorite colored pen, and a pad of paper because we're headed out to find your confidence today. The part that tends to creep me out just a little bit is how easily we are manipulated by targeted information by the algorithms that are built into social media platforms. They're guaranteed to grab your attention because that's what they're built for. They're based on your likes, your dislikes, and all your personal nuances in between. So if you're like me, you jump on with a goal to find something specific, and then you find yourself running down this rabbit hole when something intriguing pops up on your screen during your search, and then you find yourself doing other kinds of research than you intended to. So what's happened for me is recently I've been watching my screen time, and I can tell you with confidence, I am not impressed with myself. My goal for the next few months is to limit my screen time and utilize my on-screen time more efficiently, especially because I just did a little research on how social media impacts your brain, your health, and your mental health. And I am definitely not surprised by the results that I found and what I've read, but I do kind of feel as if I really need to be more intentional with my time. So here we go. What are the positive impacts of using social media? First, social connection. Facebook and other places where you're there socially and you can connect with your family members, they're great. You can see graduations, weddings, share photos, stay connected by having conversations, by messaging one another, or keeping in touch with people from, different phases of life that you're not going to always pick up the phone and talk to them, but you can somewhat keep in touch with them. This is great. That social connection, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, is really important, not only for your health mentally, but also for your health physically. They've proven that people who are socially connected are actually people who live longer. It's great to have the ability to get on some kind of social media app, whether it's Facebook or Zoom or whatever it is, and be and feel connected to people on the other side. So if you think back to a couple years ago when we experienced COVID, thank goodness we have this resource, right? Can you imagine having it 10 years or 20 years prior to that? Because it would have been very different. During COVID, we were able to connect with family members. We were able to do FaceTime or Zoom. I actually had a happy hour with a friend every Friday night. She would grab a glass of wine and I would, and we would just talk, but it helped us feel like we weren't lost. And I definitely loved that social connection part. So then it brings us to another way that social media is good by the fact that it is a learning tool. So think about how much information is available on social media platforms. It's literally endless. This may or may not be my biggest issue because I am a lifelong learner and I like to learn from about everything from like gardening, or if you look at my social media, Instagram, I love insects in my garden and that sort of thing. So I can do that. And I love to look at information on crafting. I like to learn about business and entrepreneurship. I obviously love life coaching, that sort of thing. So I can get really, 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 really caught up on researching a million different things and finding all kinds of different information. Honestly, there are so many people offering free tools that you can have access to through social platforms. It is truly one of the easiest and best learning tools that we've experienced. And especially if you're someone like me who's in your 50s, there was a time where you had to pull that big encyclopedia off the shelf to learn anything. I can tell you, social media is an improvement. So anyway, then it brings us to number 3, community building. Being able to locate communities and individuals that are in your community that you would not have access to otherwise, or looking for something like a grief group or people who love to bike ride and have a bike ride on Saturdays, or if it's doing yoga with a group of people or whatever it is, finding people that are in familiar activities like you are, it's super, super easy to use social media to make that connection. And it kind of goes with the social connection, but it's a little bit different because it's more about being part of your community. Church groups, you can find church groups, book clubs, all of it on social media, which is a great benefit. And if you happen to be someone who is limited by having to do it from home, there are countless groups that meet by Zoom, or you can sit in the comfort of your own home and still engage. I think this is a fantastic benefit, and all of that helps your confidence. Connection to your community, the connection socially, it is increasing your confidence by giving you that feeling of not only engagement, but feeling of being the same as other people, having something in common. Then I like to think about number 4, the creativity and self-expression outlet of social media. So for me, I have an Instagram page, and my personal Instagram page is truthfully filled by my creative expression of photography. And I am not a photographer, not claiming that, but I like to take photos of things in my gardens or around my yard, or patterns I see when I'm on vacation. When I look at things, I love the patterns and textures and things that visually I get to see. That's the artist side of me. I really, really enjoy it. And that I post on the internet. And it's fun because people interact with that. Or if they don't, that's okay too. I still love to do it. You have the ability to share your creativity with the world and express yourself and your likes with the world by utilizing social media, which I think is fantastic. You don't have to have an art show to share with the world some of your likes and interests and the creative expression of those likes and interests. It's a great way for people to just be connected with other people who are like-minded as well. So it's another connection piece, but certainly creativity is very, very helpful. And even though that isn't what this podcast is about, creativity is great for your brain, and it's a great outlet when you're stressed or you have anxiety. Which kind of leads me to the 5th thing that is a benefit and helps with your confidence when it comes to social media is the emotional support that you can find on social media. Now, there's 2 sides to this coin, but for right now, I'm going to focus on the benefit or the positive aspect of it. If you are feeling down or you're feeling frustrated or alone, you can find support online. You just have to know where to look. At times, life just throws curveballs. It throws curveballs to all of us. When they're intermingled, those curveballs tied in with our family and our friends, it can be really hard because it feels like you're trapped and you don't have anyone to talk to. And you may feel like you can't share your true feelings because you don't want to hurt someone, or maybe you don't want to disappoint someone. Seeking a group out or finding someone online that doesn't have connections to your family and friends, like joining a group, and someone who can be neutral, that gives you the ability to be completely honest and explore your deep and truest fears, frustrations, dreams, whatever's going on in your mind without feeling as if you're going to alienate them, your friends and family, or disappoint friends and family. So it's great from that aspect as well. And it's also one of the greatest benefits of hiring a life coach. Finding someone who you can share your deepest, darkest fears and frustrations without having to alienate friends and family. A good life coach will help you explore all of that. I would love to be your coach. So even if you don't know for sure if you want coaching or not, I have a free discovery call. All you have to do is go to the Crazy Confidence Coach website and sign up for the free discovery call that is on the right-hand side. Then we can just chat and see if I'm the right coach for you. If I'm not the right coach for you, I have contacts. I have all kinds of coaches that I am connected with, and maybe I can connect you with the right coach if I'm not the right one for you. My discovery call is free. There's no obligation to hire me, but we can chat about your goals and see if we're a good fit. All right, now let's move on to the possible negative impacts of social media. First, let me just say this. Everyone is impacted by social media in some way. Think about how you engage with social media and how it impacts you on a daily basis or a weekly basis, however often it is that you're engaging with it. Research shows that how you engage with social media matters. So when you're just solely like scrolling the feed, like maybe on Instagram or even on Facebook or whatever, and you're not really interacting or actively posting, it has a greater negative impact on you than if you're engaging with social media for a purpose. So what are the exact ways you experience social media, and what ways do you think you have positive impact and negative impact? As we review these 5 negative impacts, consider which ones might be impacting you. You can, of course, go back and look at the positive impacts and see if there's a balance there, or if you really need to work like I do on detoxing or kind of letting go and doing a more intentional engagement with social media. So from the negative side, the number one thing that I have looked at was disrupted sleep patterns. And let me tell you, this is something that was huge for me. It is huge for me. I can literally stay up till 4 a.m., not just with social media, but working on even a podcast. Maybe I'm getting something out, and I typically record on Mondays, and I don't do a lot of like pre-recording. So it is not the best pattern, but it is my pattern, and it's worked for almost a year. So I'm keeping it. Being on devices and engaging in social media late at night can just disrupt you, and it can interrupt your sleep patterns. There's information out there that talks about blue lights and the different light that you're engaging with, and all the different adverse effects that come with that, like having eating habit changes with staying up with social media, or it makes you snack more during the day. I even read somewhere that it actually helps many people gain weight because they are more tired by staying up. And this in turn, of course, makes you snack more or go for things that aren't good for you. So that is the first thing. The second thing is just having a general lack of confidence, anxiety, and depression. So when you use social media as a compass for gauging with what it should look like or how our lives should be lived, it can be extremely misguided. So what I mean by that is if you're looking on social media and looking at everyone else's life and how their life is going, their new job, maybe they're on vacation, maybe their kids are in the latest, greatest, cutest clothes for the first day of school, maybe somebody gets engaged and you get to see that and you're single. All those things influence you and influence what you believe about what you want or should want for your life. Those snippets, though, those little images and videos that are shared on social media are largely filtered images, and they're scripted and recorded. So Oftentimes those recorded things are happening multiple times. They're not just getting it perfect the first time. They're trying over and over again until they get a video or something that is what their perception of perfect is to engage you. So you are believing it's their first take and it's really like their 20th take. It's just something to really be in touch with, that understanding that if we're gauging ourselves by what we see online, it can be extremely bad for our health mentally. It can create anxiety, it can create depression, it can create a lack of confidence, especially if you're in comparison. You can go back and listen to many of the episodes in the past and how I've talked about confidence and how bad comparison is for you. It just isn't good for you when it comes to your confidence building. Keep that in mind and remember that all that self-doubt, anxiety, and depression that you're having when you're viewing social media can be prevented, one, by not engaging with the social media as much, or at least not scrolling without truly engaging and being realistic about what it really is. Then there's the obvious. Lack of movement, which is the third point. When you're stuck on your couch or you're sitting in your bed and you're scrolling on your phone for hours or playing on social media, even if you're doing business activity on LinkedIn, but you're there for long amounts of time, all that time that you're using up can be only sitting still. It's really difficult to engage walking or you can listen to podcasts, of course, while you're walking or exercising, but typically when you're scrolling and you're using social media, you are sitting. You're either sitting in bed or a couch or a chair or wherever at the airport and whatever you're doing. But the point is you have a lack of movement during that time. If you don't have movement, your body needs movement for blood flow, lymphatic drainage, all the things that make you healthier and happier are neglected, essentially. This is just going to create weight gain. You're going to have less mobility, and ultimately, it's going to create more disease in your body if you're not moving. Number 4, you're essentially disconnected. When you are spending your time, it's kind of a weird thing, right? You think you're more connected when you're on the phone sometimes, but if you're overusing social media and you're spending a lot of time, you're not connecting with the people in front of you, physically in front of you. Have you noticed if you're out at a restaurant or even the airport or you're seeing people together, but their noses are both in a phone? It is just fascinating to me that we don't engage anymore. Even my dog hates when I have my phone in my hand. My sweet little Coco girl, she will literally attempt to knock my phone out of my hand if I'm scrolling on social media. She'll hit it with her nose multiple times, and not just a little tap, I mean forcefully. So she knows something we don't know, right? But I would bet money that you've witnessed folks at restaurants or family gatherings when people are around others that their heads are down and they're playing in their phones instead of paying attention to what is in front of them. So you're disconnecting by being in social media. So that is the 4th way that it can really take a big chunk out of your confidence, because when you're disconnecting from others, you aren't feeling more confident. Typically, you have a reverse response to that. Then number 5 is health issues. And I think this is the biggest thing, although maybe not, because depression and lack of confidence and anxiety is big and they're physical too. But health issues like eye strain, back and neck pain, and poor posture, all of those things from using devices and being on social media for extended periods of time. So you can get headaches from that eye strain, and then you have unnatural light that you're looking at ongoing. Your posture, if you notice people, they tend to kind of, their heads go down and then their chin is tucked into their neckline. And this is all, you're not breathing as well, you're not getting as much oxygen, and you're getting exposed to your phone and all the radiation coming off your phone. So if you look at the phone companies, they're now saying, do not sleep by your phone. Do not plug your phone in next to your head. All of that is really bad for your health. The other piece of it that is connected with your health, it doesn't seem like it's as direct, but it is that you have an increased exposure to unhealthy food options. I don't know about you. Maybe it's what's geared toward me because I'm a foodie. We love to go out to really fun, cool, different restaurants. And I'm constantly in my news feed seeing really fun food, but typically it's not the most healthy food. I do have healthy food showing up in my feed as well, but if you're looking at all that, your eyes eat before your mouth do. And so if you're out searching to match what your eyes have been seeing, you're going to have an increased consumption of food that isn't supportive for healthy nutrition. So consider that as well. Those are the 5 things that I just wanted to point out for the negative things that influence your confidence through social media. Now, let me tell you, what I've highlighted today is definitely not exhaustive. There is a list way beyond what we talked about today, but I feel like it will get you started to take a look at how you are interacting with social media. What is the impact that social media is having on you on a daily basis? Really think about what are the positives and what are the negatives. And if you're like me, you may have a kind of like a review time. I looked at my social media, how much time I was spending on it and what I was doing when I was on social media. Because I do get on social media for work and for what I do for my coaching practice and for engaging with other professionals. But the reality is I'm spending way more time socially than I am professionally. So I really want to scale that back. I really want to take back my time. And that's what I intend to do. It takes that little evaluation of exactly how we're doing it to make that decision to be more intentional. I'm going to bet money that you can find some ways too to improve your habits in social media. But don't worry, I promise you, you are not alone. I'm right there with you, as I said. Next week, I'm going to continue the conversation by sharing a list of activities you can do instead of social media and improve your relationships, not only with yourself, but with your family and friends. Come back next week. And we'll talk a little bit more about social media and improving your relationship with yourself and with your family. And I'm going to give you a list of activities that you can do instead of social media, especially if you're on the journey I am and want to be more intentional. I will see you next week. Have a great one. Hey, I want to thank you for listening in to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. I really hope you learned something valuable today. Can you do me the biggest favor? Right now, could you share the show with 3 people you know that might enjoy listening in? If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you took the time to leave a rating or review. This helps people just like you find the podcast so they can also get great fun tips about confidence. Then don't forget, come back each week and we will keep giving out little tips for how to increase your confidence, how to ditch that self-doubt and stop your negative thought patterns so you can get back to your crazy confident self and pursue your biggest dreams fearlessly. See you next week. Love you big.